Perfect. Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk. Of course, this is the show we cover the SWAC inside and out, and I am your tour guide around the SWAC. Seawell's coming at you. And as you can see, we're going to talk quarterbacks again. We did a show earlier in the last couple of months talking about the quarterback battles at each position, at each school. But this week, I want to kind of do it a little different. We've been talking about, players and teams and everything, and there's a lot of questions for a lot of teams. So, you like to sit back and look at who's the number one quarterback in the league, who's the top guy, who's the number two guy. And there's a few guys that's battling it out for those spots, but then there's kind of a question mark after maybe two or three. So I wanted to kind of just look at some guys who could potentially be a top guy if they have a great season, or at least in the top five mix when you sit down and do a list of who the top quarterbacks in the league are. You want to kind of, see who's who. So that's what we're going to kind of chop it up about today. So if this is your kind of thing, man, you want to see more of this, hit that subscription button, subscribe to the channel, like the videos. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to be alerted to whenever a video drops. And feel free to comment on who you think your top three, top five quarterbacks in the league, or do we have five good quarterbacks in the league yet? Will there be five? Whatever. That's what we're going to do. Also, you can hit that Patreon. It's patreon.com/swag talk. You can support the show, help us continue to keep the lights on. We have a $3 level that allows you access to a members group chat and give you the opportunity to suggest topics for shows, whether it's SWAC Talk or SWAC Smoke. Also, we have a $5 level that allows you access to those two things, as well as access to be on our live members roundtable on SWAC Smoke. We're going to try to do that on the last show of each month. So if you want to be down with that, you get the $5 level. Otherwise, if you want to just be down with a group chat and being able to suggest topics, you can hit that $3 level. So we definitely appreciate it. All that goes back to helping keep the show up and going, because like I said, we do this quite often now, and we want to continue to bring you guys the best content that we can. So, you got to kind of have that extra oomph. So also you get the socials: Facebook is SWAC Talk, Instagram SWAC Talk, Twitter SWAC Talk 76. And now let's go ahead and jump into this. But before we talk football, man, let's talk a little baseball really quickly. The baseball tournament starts this week. Actually Wednesday. It'll take place in Atlanta. So we at Russ Chandler Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. The tournament would take place starting Wednesday with the championship on Sunday, May 28th. So let's look at the the seedings, and we'll run through the tournament bracket, and we'll kind of keep tabs on this as it goes on. Grambling won the West Division. They were 22-7 in conference play, so they entered the tournament as the number one seed from the West. In case you don't know, the baseball tournament takes 8 teams, 4 from the East, 4 from the West, and you play East versus West in the first game, and then there's a double elimination losers bracket. So we'll run through all of it. Texas Southern is the number 2 seed in the West. They were 17-10. They actually finished tied with Southern, who was also 17-10, but Southern gets the 3 seed due to Texas Southern having a tiebreaker over them. The TSU won the cumulative series over Southern, so they get the 2 seed, Southern the 3 seed. Prairie View's a 4 seed at 15-14 in conference play. Bama State won the East Division with a 26-4 record. They have the best record overall in conference play. They are the 1 seed, followed by Bethune-Cookman, who is the 2 seed at 20-9. FAMU is a 3 seed at 18-12 in conference play, followed by number 4 seed Jackson State at 13-17 in conference play. The tournament starts on Wednesday. May 24th at 9 a.m. The 2 seed Texas Southern Tigers take on the 3 seed from the East, Florida A&M Rattlers. The 12 p.m. game, which is game 2, East 2 seed Bethune-Cookman Wildcats versus 3 seed Southern University Jaguars. That game is at 12 o'clock. Game 3, number 1 seed out of the East, Alabama State Hornets take on the number 4 seed out of the West, Prairie View A&M Panthers. That's a 3 p.m. first pitch, roughly. Game 4, the West Division champ Grambling State Tigers take on the East 4 seed Jackson State Tigers. That game first pitch is approximately 6 p.m. Thursday, May 25th, Game 5, the loser of Game 1 versus the loser of Game 3. That game takes place at 9 a.m. Game 6, the loser of Game 2 versus the loser of Game 4. That's a 12 p.m. first pitch. Game 7, the winner of Game 1 versus the winner of Game 3, 3 p.m. Game 8, the winner of Game 2 versus the winner of Game 4, 6 p.m. On Friday, May 26th, Game 9 is the winner of Game 5 versus the loser of Game 7, 9 a.m. first pitch. Game 10, winner of Game 6 versus loser of Game 8, 12 p.m. first pitch. Game 11, the winner of Game 7 versus the winner of Game 9, 3 p.m. first pitch. Game 12, the winner of Game 10 versus the winner of Game 8, 6 p.m. first pitch. Saturday, these games are, if necessary, Game 11B is the loser of Game 11 versus the winner of Game 11. That game is at 12 p.m. First pitch. Game 12B, the loser of Game 12 versus the winner of Game 12. That's a 3 p.m. first pitch. The championship will be on Sunday, May 28th. Game 13, championship game, 1 p.m. first pitch. All these times are Eastern Standard Time. So our first pitch in the early games is actually 8 p.m. on Central Time, 8 a.m. 8 a.m. on Central Time. So that's a really early start. If you want to get up and watch these games will be streamed on the SWAC Digital Network, so you can catch all the action there. Those games are available live on the SWAC Digital Network. So that's the baseball tournament. We'll keep tabs on it, and we'll check in on it as they progress toward the championship and make their way to a regional. So now let's go ahead and head into today's topic: SWAC QBs. Who's next? In my Bill Goldberg voice, who's next? I've been watching a lot of old wrestling, y'all gotta forgive me. So my mind's kind of stuck on that. But looking back at last season, the quarter, like I said, there were, we lost some big name quarterbacks over the past few years. I would say you would have to probably go back to like 2019 to find a year where there were multiple, I won't say great, but multiple, good quarterbacks in the league. 2019, just for reference, you had Akil Glass, Felix Harper, Kadarius Davis from Alabama State, who was really, really solid. Shannon Patrick, DeAndre Johnson from Texas Southern, Jeremy Higbottom, Ladarius Skelton. So there were quite a few guys who were capable of taking over games, and that may have been at that point probably the deepest group of quarterbacks that the league had in a while. So this season, I think you are seeing a lot more new guys. I mean, when you look at what's returning, there's not a lot. I mean, there are some talented guys coming back, but there's not a whole lot coming back. Your top returning quarterback is Jeremy Musa. Last season, he was number 2 in the league he was number 2 in the league in yardage per game at 248 yards per game. He was 225 of 393, 21 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 2,730 yards. He was second in the league in total yards, second in the league in touchdowns. So he's the top. Basically, he's the top guy coming back in conference play. Andrew Body would be the number 2 returning quarterback. He was 145 of 259 for 1,807 yards. 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Other than that, you have Trezon Connolly. He was 122 of 208 for 1,462 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And then Aaron Allen, although his job may not be his job, but he was 121 of 194, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1,424 yards. Demetrius Davis, 94 of 158, 1,204 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Xavier Langford and Quincy Casey, both guys from Alabama A&M who appeared to be up for the job. Langford was 110 of 198, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1,252 yards. Casey, 89 of 151, 1,088 yards, 5 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And then you could throw in Julian Calvez from Grambling, 69 of 168, 767 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. So there are quite a few guys who got some action last season that are returning. But when you look at the top portion of the group, your top guy is gone, your number 3 guy is gone. Strangely enough, the most beleaguered quarterback in the league was 5th in total. It was 5th in yardage. The guy who most of us felt like was a horrible passer. He was 5th in total yardage. Don't want to take too many shots at the kid. 13 touchdowns, 9 interceptions for Bashawn McCray. So, I mean, even a guy like that did not necessarily have the greatest season, still was a top 5 quarterback in the league when it comes to yardage. So there's, you're losing a lot of explosive guys. Jones was a guy who didn't play for a great team, but he was a really solid quarterback. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders was the top quarterback in the league, first team all-conference guy. So when you look at the holes that have to be filled, you have a guy like Miles Crowley who can step into that top, that top ranking in the conference. He moved from Bama State to Grambling. Last season, he was 58 of 96 for 785 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So you can expect if he gets the job at Grambling, his numbers should go up. He was definitely a really solid quarterback at Bama State in the limited time that he got. So maybe with more on his plate, that could help him even develop even more, become more of a guy who can be on that top 5 list. Tyler Macon is a name who I've heard a lot from a lot of people at Alcorn, very high on him. He didn't play a lot at Missouri. He does have 3 years of eligibility, so that helps. He played in 3 games last season before he went into the portal in December. His freshman year, he played in 3 games in his true freshman year. He was 9 of 17 on the season, 143 yards and a touchdown. He ran 13 times for 50 yards and a touchdown. He made his first appearance against Southeast Missouri. He was 3 of 4 for 69 yards, including a 65-yard touchdown. He ran 2 times for 8 yards at Vanderbilt and scored a 2-yard touchdown. He actually started against Georgia in 2021 on the road at that. He went 6 of 13 for 74 yards, and he ran about 11 times for 42 yards. He only played in 3 games, so he still was able to get his red shirt. So he was a 2021-2022 academic honor roll kid at Missouri. So didn't get a lot of action, but he made the most of his action. Like I said, he got to start at Georgia, which is obviously a tough place to play against a championship caliber team. The Missouri team wasn't really that good that year, so he didn't really have a lot around him to work with. But talent-wise, he's a high talent guy. Definitely a guy who you can look for to be productive. If he can continue to develop, he was a 4-star prospect, number 13 dual threat quarterback in the country, the number 5 prospect out of the state of Illinois. Overall by rivals, he was an elite 11 quarterback. He was the elite 11 quarterback count, where he finished in the top 11 and 5th overall in the week's final pro day session. He was the Illinois Player of the Year, so he comes with some accolades. He's a guy that if he can continue to develop, you can really probably have him on this list If he plays to the caliber that a lot of people expect, he may shoot up to the top of the list. When you look at what he's capable of doing, so that's definitely a guy I can put on that that who's next list. I think if things go right, he can be one of those guys that you will be talking more about as the season goes. Now, he Allen Allen Aaron Allen's been hurt, so he's been able to kind of step in and take the reins. So we'll see how that continues into the season. Bama State, they returned Demetrius Davis. Like I said, was an up and down first year there. That was his first real college action, so he still has to develop. Maybe he gets better, maybe he doesn't. Damon Stewart is a guy who is slated to come in. He was at UAB, didn't really get any action there. He played in 8 games at East Mississippi Community College. He was 31 of 59 for 272 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. So not a lot of snaps under his belt either there. So this guy doesn't have a lot, doesn't have a lot of experience. Can Davis hold him off? I don't know if either one of those guys are gonna have the type of season that you can put them as a top 5 guy. But that stranger things have happened. Looking at Alabama A&M, they returned two starters, 2 guys who have started games. They moved some guys around because of that, and then they just brought in Cornelius Brown from UT Martin. He played in 7 games at UT Martin. He helped the team go to the win the OVC championship. He was 4-12 for 37 yards on the season. But before that, he played at Georgia State, where he had a really solid career. He played there for 3 seasons, and in his time at Georgia State, he threw for 2,489 yards and 26 total touchdowns, including 7 passing and 9 rushing. In 2020, he was named MVP of the 2020 Lending Tree Bowl, while finishing 2nd in the Sun Belt in passing at 227.8 yards per game, 2nd in total offense at 257.9 yards per game, and he was responsible for 14.6 points per game. He was named to the 2020 FWAA Freshman All-American watch list. Total 24 touchdowns, 7 passing, and 7 rushing. And 7 rushing touchdowns was the most ever by a Georgia State freshman. He was 178 for 304. Passing for 2,278 yards, 301 rushing yards, giving him 2,579 total yards of offense that season. He led an offense that set a school record, averaging 33.3 points per game, while ranking 2nd in program history with 194 rush yards per game as an offense, and 3rd in total offense per game at 424.3 yards per game. He was named Manning Award Star of the Week and FWA Freshman for November 30th after throwing for a career high 372 yards and 2 touchdowns in a win over Georgia Southern. He was Offensive Player of the Week in the Sun Belt after accounting for 4 touchdowns against ULM. So he got most of his action his first year at Georgia State, and then he kind of was I guess moved over. And then he went to UT Martin. Didn't get a lot of action there, but he's obviously a guy who is capable of doing the job. I mean, he can. He had a really good, like I said, he had a really good freshman year. Hasn't played a lot since then, so that's something to look at. But he's a guy who can run the ball. He can throw it. So if he's 6'6", so he's a big guy. So if he can come in, to me it's always tough for a guy to come in. And take the job from guys who have already been there. Unless it's a guy who's been playing like multiple years, like starting multiple years, and you can plug and play. Can he do it? Who knows? I mean, he probably has some questions too. So, will he be able to get the opportunity and play well enough to boost himself to that list? To the top of that list or on that list of top 5 guys? That's going to remain to be seen. First, he has to win the job over 2 guys who are already there. So that's an interesting name to kind of take a look at as well. So other than that, like I said, you take you look at Bethune Cookman. We really don't know what they're gonna do. The guys that they had last season weren't really great. They struggled in their own ways. So I don't know if any of those guys are gonna have a team or the ability to take that step to make it to the top of the list. You look at Jackson State. Obviously, they have guys that have been there in the spring that they're high on, and then they brought in another quarterback just the other day, uh, Jacobian Morgan. He's a 6'4" redshirt freshman. He's from Canton, Mississippi, so he's a local guy. He actually started at Syracuse his freshman year, which was 2020. He played in 4 games with 2 starts. He became just the 7th true freshman in the school history to start a game at quarterback. He was 31 of 49 on that season with 285 yards and 2 touchdowns. He made his college debut in relief at Clemson. He didn't record any stats. He completed all 7 of his passes and led a late touchdown drive in his second game against Wake Forest. He made his first start against Boston College for a 19 of 30 for 188 yards and a touchdown. And then he completed 5 of 12 passes at Louisville before he got injured and didn't get to play anymore. 2021, he played in 2 games as a reserve, completing the only one pass that he attempted. He debuted against Albany, and he completed his long pass for 3 yards against NC State. And then last season, he did not appear in any games. So another guy who played a lot. Well, he didn't play a whole lot, but he got some solid action his first year, and hasn't really got a lot of action since. But this is a guy who has started some Power 5 games, but not a really huge amount of action. So he's gonna come into a crowded room. I mean, you have Jason Brown, who a lot of people feel is gonna start. You have Zion McDonald, who some people are pushing for. You have Philip Short, who are some people pushing for. And then you got Sunshine still there. So it's like you got a lot of guys still, and coming in now. Is he gonna be able to take the reins and win the job? I do think whoever gets this starting nod playing for this offense could end up being in that top 5 list just on the strength of the weapons that this team should have and the opportunities that they'll have to put up those numbers. So that's definitely an interesting name to look at, and that's an interesting race to look at. Valley, they basically are starting over, so I don't really expect to see anybody there yet. Prairie View, Shazan Connolly is the guy. Right now, I would probably say just by default, he's the number 3 quarterback in the league in terms of if I had to rank him. So he's sitting there. Didn't have a great 2022 season. He was 7th in the league in yardage. Like I said, he was 122 or 208 for 1,462 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But he did his damage on the ground last season, where he was actually the number 7 rusher in the league. He had 70 carries for 790 yards and 9 touchdowns, average 11.3 yards per carry. So he definitely was a guy who was a part of a 3-headed monster in the rushing attack. So he was definitely a guy who could be capable of carrying the ball. His passing wasn't that bad, but I don't really feel like they asked him to do a lot. So he can obviously improve with time. And Southern, we don't know who their guy is going to be. They have like 1,900 quarterbacks that they can pick from. They do have a lot of skill guys, and they don't have like a super tough schedule. So if a guy can take that job and be productive, you can find that guy maybe being, a guy that can make that list. And then Pine Bluff, they return a couple guys who didn't get a lot of action last season and didn't look that great when they did play. So it's going to be tough for that unit. So like I said, if there's not a lot of names I would throw on that list right now, but at the end of the season, I can look for, like I say, like a Miles Crawley or Macon if he, you know, he plays the way he should. If Cornelius Brown can come in and do the job, or even, you know, Langford or Casey, if one of those guys develops and gets consistent, you know, they can end up on that list. I'm not quite sure about a Bama State guy. I would say, you know, whoever the Jackson State guy is may end up on that list, and probably somebody from Southern on that list by the end of the season. But right now, there's a lot of question marks, and that's why I wanted to phrase it like that, like who's next, because you know there's like I said, you can say there's 1 and 2. You know, you can say Musa or Body, depending on how you look at it. And then there's Connolly sitting there. You can put Crowley there, but he doesn't have a lot of playing experience, especially last season. Davis wasn't that great. Um, so some of the returning guys weren't really necessarily, world beaters, but they are capable guys. So anybody can take that step, then we can see some better quarterback play. But right now, that's kind of the thing that gets me kind of the heebie-jeebies, because I don't really feel super confident in everybody's quarterback situation right now. But as the season goes, things could get better. But I just wanted to hop on and share my thoughts on who's next, because right now I don't really know. So that's gonna do it for today's show, man. Remember, y'all hit that subscription button to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to be alerted to any videos that I drop. Support the Patreon if you could, patreon.com/swag talk. And we'll catch y'all on another edition of Swag Talk, and we'll holler at y'all on the rebound. Peace.